an incredibly important partner to the United States. Hence, the president is having one of his first bilats in person with the president of South Korea, and I think that sends a clear message. Now, in terms of working with South Korea to address regional security issues or strategic issues in the region, certainly there'll be an opportunity to talk about that. We expect that North Korea will be a central topic of the discussion, of course, tomorrow, but they also will discuss climate. They will also discuss economic partnership. They will also discuss China. And those will all be a part of this bilateral conversation and meeting tomorrow.
But in terms of like a full-fledged membership, I know you'd have to rename it. Is that going to come up? Is the president going to push for that?
Look, I think that South Koreans may bring up a range of issues, of course, but I'm just framing for you what we expect the focus of the discussions to be about. And I would also convey that there are a range of forums and formats through the international community where the U.S. works with a range of countries, where we may work with, of course, Japan and South Korea on a range of issues. That there's been a history of that through trilateral cooperation, as you know. There are a range of international organizations that we are a part of, and South Korea is also a part of. So I don't have anything to predict or anticipate in terms of a change in membership of the Quad, but I would just note that the fact that they are here tomorrow, that it's a full bilateral program, makes clear the importance of that strategic relationship.
Has President Biden ruled out the possibility of face-to-face meeting with Kim Jong-un of the North? I mean, is that even a possibility?
I don't expect that to be top on his agenda.
And just one quick one on taxes. Do you have any fears that the new IRS enforcement plan might create some political blowback, some wariness in the public, just the idea, oh, the tax man's coming, I might face an audit? What should people know about that?
Well, I think it's one of the reasons that we want to be absolutely clear that what additional enforcement from the IRS would be focused on are people who are not paying their fair share. That is not hardworking middle-class Americans who are, working hard, paying taxes, putting food on the table. There are a range of other entities that are less likely to pay their fair share of taxes. So we will be, continue to be absolutely clear about that. Lower middle class Americans are, for the most part across the board, compliant with their tax obligations. But there are cases where corporations are not paying their fair share, and they're able to play by their own rules, paying half or less than what they owe. And, that's really what the focus is. Go ahead in the back.
Thank you, Jen. On taxes again, the president has called on the wealthy to pay their fair share. I'm wondering if the president would like to see reforms to the way that S corporations are treated, given that the Obama administration said that those corporate structures could sometimes be used as loopholes, and yet President Biden, between 2017 and 2020, used an S corporation, according to his tax returns and reporting in Bloomberg, to avoid paying nearly $500,000 in self-employment taxes.
Well, I will say first that he received no income from Celtic Capri in 2020, which is the S Corp, and it's dormant, and it will not be engaging in any business other than to receive potential royalties, which would relate to books he has already written. And of course, as you know, you only know about this because the president released his tax returns, which has long been historic precedent, even if it wasn't over the last several years. In terms of additional tax reform proposals, I don't have any to announce for you today. I would note that the president paid a higher rate than most high-income individuals and most corporations around the country.
Very good. And then another one with regards to the question of what's happening currently in the Middle East. I know that you touched on, the Iran nuclear deal, but, there was reporting earlier that the leader of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard said that the rocket attacks from Palestine hitting Israel was a sign of, quote, a new Palestine. I'm wondering if that type of rhetoric coming out of Iran has any effect on the president's eagerness to rejoin the treaty, the Iran nuclear agreement, and sort of if there is any interplay between those two spheres.
Well, I think it's important to be very clear. Iran they're bad actors, and they're bad actors in the region, and that is very clear. That is our position. However, the president believes that it is in the best interest of the United States and in the best interest of countries in the region to have more visibility into Iran's nuclear capabilities and to prevent them from acquiring a nuclear weapon.
Could I ask you one more on the Colonial Pipeline?
Yes.
Has the president been briefed on any intelligence suggesting that the dark side hacking group, which claimed responsibility, operates under the indirect supervision of any Russian intelligence services? Is there any relationship that we have seen?
I think the president was clear last week in what the intelligence assessment is about the Russian government's involvement or knowledge of the hacking. At the same time, they are a criminal entity that is on Russian soil, and therefore they have a responsibility.
Thank you, Jeff.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to go back to Israel really quick. So yesterday, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez accused Israel of using American weapons to target media outlets, schools, hospitals, other sites. The other day, Congresswoman Omar called the Israeli Prime Minister an ethno-nationalist. I know you've talked about the White House's message to Democrats, but does the president specifically denounce these comments?
I think we have a responsibility here to speak about this as the issue that it is, which is a conflict that is killing people in a region, and our efforts to bring that to an end. The president doesn't see this through the prism of domestic politics. He sees this through the prism of what role the United States can play as a leader in the global community to engage in quiet, intensive diplomacy to bring an end to the suffering and the tragedy on the ground.
And just to follow up on that, so of course this isn't just a domestic issue, but there is infighting between Democrats, and one of President Biden's big messages is unity. So what is being done to unify his own party on this issue, and how is this infighting not hurting that message of unity?
Well, here's where there is agreement. We all want to see an end to the conflict on the ground. We all want to see an end to the suffering for Palestinian people, for the Israeli people. There's a disagreement on tactics. There's a disagreement on some aspects of how we engage. But we all agree that we want to end the suffering, and that is certainly a unifying message. Go ahead in the back.
Thanks, Jen. I want to pick up on a couple things that my colleagues have asked, infrastructure and taxes.
Sure.
First, though, on infrastructure. Has any progress been made? I know you say that the conversations have been constructive, the talks are going to keep on going, but has any progress been made through the lens of the White House?
Well, here's what's progress. We have Democrats and Republicans, the ranking members of a range of important committees in the Senate, having discussions with members of our senior White House team, a Democratic administration, about an agreement that we need to invest in our nation's infrastructure. Are we on the same page on every component of how it should be paid for or on the numbers? No. Do we know it will have a successful outcome? No, we don't know that yet, because this is democracy in action. This is compromise. This is negotiations. And it looks foreign because we haven't seen this in some time, but it's ongoing. So we're not going to give a day-by-day grade. It's not particularly constructive to do that.
What's the bigger challenge at this point, the top line figure or the pay for?
The top line figure of the pay for?
Yeah, what's a bigger lift at this point? From
Look, I think I'm not going to rank order them, but I will say that it's not been a secret that the largest area of disagreement is pay-fors. And obviously, if you have a higher top-line number, you need more pay-fors. Doesn't require a mathematician for that.
And then on taxes, with the guidelines that the Treasury Department put out today as it relates to the IRS.
Yeah.
What is the argument that you would make that the inflows and outflows of someone's account should be monitored by the IRS? And since the Treasury Department says those who make under $400,000 aren't going to be audited any more than they have been in the past, essentially, are you creating a two-tier audit system? Those who make more than $400,000 and those who make less?
Well, I would say that lower and middle income Americans who are working hard, getting their paychecks are not typically the issue at hand here. And what the tax compliance report conveyed today is that, or confirmed today, I should say, is that it's past time to reform our broken tax system, that teachers, firefighters, nurses, and other hardworking Americans, they report their income, they pay required taxes. Wealthiest Americans and corporations, because they often operate under different tax systems, it already is a system that is living in two Americas, they're able to pay lower tax rates. That's not fair. That's basically what the president is conveying.
I guess what would you say to the person who does well, pays their taxes and just doesn't want the government seeing the outflows and inflows. They pay by the book and they say, hey, I don't think this is right. But
Well, again, I think what our focus is on here is ensuring that any American pays the taxes that they are owed. And if they are paying the taxes that they are owed, then they have little to worry about. But there's no question that given that for the last 10 years, the IRS has been repeatedly underfunded, currently has 20,000 fewer staff, including fewer enforcement staff than it did a decade ago, that proposals like the president's proposal to increase a 10% increase in funding for the IRS that would largely be used to strengthen enforcement on wealthy and corporate tax filers and help ensure those at the top pay their fair share is certainly something that I think the vast majority of Americans would feel is fair and effective. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. I'm going to bring you back to the Middle East.